Yes, okay. Buenos dias, everyone. So I will speak in English. That's what I can say in Romanian is just a few words yet. So I will address today basically the payment trends that we have seen in the last couple of years, mainly during this COVID pandemics, and I will pass my view over the near future in this payments industry. And meaning the final outcome is trying to answer, is a cashless society in our horizon? Are we achieving it in the near future? And I can tell you that I'm a truly believer that we are heading there and it's a matter of time. So I will jump my first slides because meaning the host already introduced myself and SIBS. And I will go directly to my topic. So SIBS Group, meaning has been in the industry for 40 years. We used to say internally that we are one oldest fintech that is already an adult fintech working on digitization since the first day, since day one that we are in the business. So my intervention will be basically focused or divided in these two sections. First, we'll go through the ongoing payment trends over the last 3-4 years, and then the outlook of the future. Which one of these trends will become a disruptive shock, and which ones will be heading on and become new trends in the near future. So, starting to talk about last few years in payments and generally speaking in economy, we need to think, or all of us, we pass through a different stage or a different period, meaning from 2020 to 2022, we were hit by the pandemics that was somehow affecting all industries and payments as well. We'll see later on if, meaning on a positive or on a negative side. Meaning, and on top of pandemics, this brought another challenges that we were not used to have, like chip shortages, global shipping crisis, and lately the inflation. And on top of this challenge on the pandemics, meaning we finished the pandemics to adapt to the pandemics, and meaning the war just hit us in Europe, and is somehow putting more pressure on the ecosystem, all economy, and specifically as well in our payments ecosystem. Okay, going directly to the first meaning topic, what trends we have seen in the last 2-3 years. When you talk about payment trends, you are talking about going digital, going cashless. The end mission is to build a completely digital and cashless society. What we have seen is that, meaning there was negative impacts of the COVID pandemics, also positive impacts, but overall for the payments, the balance, in my opinion, is very positive because the pandemics end up to speed things, and basically I have here a clear picture on these numbers, meaning the payments till 2020 were growing at an average rate of 12%, and in the last 3-4 years we are hitting 30% growth rate in terms meaning of the overall cashless transactions. Obviously, the key trends were meaning the contactless adoption, meaning the high conversion of cash transactions into cashless transactions, speed up by the COVID adaptation that we need to do. There was worldwide, but meaning in Europe as well, we saw it a lot, adoption of wallets, and we'll see that we have a variety of wallets in all different markets. And another very important meaning trend, it was the e-commerce explosion. We saw it in payments, but this is a trend on the economy as well, meaning all the economy adapt to this remote, more remote world, and this brought the possibility of the payments to capture also this segment faster. So, some numbers, meaning contactless, as you know, the payments industry reacted very fast. When the pandemic started, the pinless limit was raised immediately. Contactless became a trend. Nowadays, contactless is the standard, is the new normal. in all the markets in Europe. So every new payment solution, every current payment solution is very fast adapting to accept contactless payments. Furthermore, on top of contactless, obviously the pandemics gave the opportunity to the payments players to bring on board people that were not already bankerized or using regularly the let's say, cashless payment means, solutions. The pandemics somehow accelerated this trend, and everywhere in the markets where SIBS groups is, we saw growths that were at least this 30% or more, and in e-commerce we saw doubling the scale in every market where we work, at least in the first 2 years of the pandemics. Obviously, along with this pressure on the contactless solutions, what we have also seen is a huge adoption of wallets also connected with this contactless adoption. On top of that, we are also seeing a trend of dematerialization that is happening. The solutions were already there. So in 2020, we were already developing a pilot of a soft POS, which is a fully dematerialized POS. But on 2022, we have now more than 10, we have 11 acquirers live in 3 different markets, and we have thousands of soft POS already deployed all over the market. And I was looking for some estimations on the growth of soft POS, and there is an impressive number that in 5 years we will have 34 million soft POS. So there will be a wave also of dematerialization that is already happening. This year we have already thousands of soft POS working in 3 different markets. Another dematerialization trend that we start to see, meaning we already had the solution deployed, but meaning volumes start to come with COVID, is the virtualization of the cards. So we have a strong wave of dematerialization along the last 3 years, and I strongly believe that this is just the step for the full dematerialization of the plastic. So I believe that we will end up in a fully dematerialized plastic. Yeah? This will be as we are already seeing in several markets, inside of a mobile phone, inside of a watch, whatsoever. What we have seen also along the last 2-3 years is a variety of wallets developing very fast, gaining a lot of volumes. And within these wallets, we see different positionings. We saw tech wallets, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay. We saw network wallets through Visa or Mastercard initiatives or domestic schemes, networks initiatives. Also banks wallets in the beginning and independent from banks. Yeah. What I believe is that this will become, or is already becoming, the trend, meaning wallets will be the future, the card will be inside of our mobile phone, of our watch, of our whatsoever, completely dematerialized. So again, the pandemics help a lot on speeding up things in terms of developing these wallet solutions. Right now, we have a coexistence between the virtual card and the physical card, but sooner than later, we will have a lot of players deploying only fully digital, dematerialized solutions inside a wallet. So moving on. Okay, one example of one wallet that SIBS developed in Portugal through a domestic scheme. We started to develop this wallet MBWay 7 years ago, and we had, before COVID, 1.5 million, 2 million, let's say, users of this wallet. With COVID, during 2 years, we more than doubled the scale. So we crossed last month 4.5 million users of this wallet in a market of 10 million people. So 45% of the population is using it. Obviously, meaning this has a roadmap that started 5 to 7 years ago, deploying a lot of different transactions. We have instant transfers, the virtual cards were already there, in-store payments were already developed, the cardless access to ATM and cardless withdrawal were already there. But it was with COVID that somehow the wallet exploded in terms of utilization. Another thing that we start to see, I think that several speakers already talk a lot about it today, was about using analytics to get more nearby to an each time more remote customer. So before COVID, we had, meaning some pilots, we have some small, let's say, successful cases for some segments with some partners. But during COVID, the interest and the investment put in developing and using analytics and real-time loyalty or to approach to get more nearby to the customer was also a trend that we saw that is accelerating. Not so much as the previous trend, so it's still gaining ground, but it was COVID that somehow speeds up the urgency of starting to look at it. Another trend that I believe that COVID accelerated, it was the conscience that on top of complex solutions, of more solutions, we really need to develop also secure solutions. So we are each time more dematerializing, we are disrupting, we are being faster in deploying new solutions, but it's key in any payment solution that we deploy to be successful, to be sure that is a very secure solution. Till now, what we have seen is that, meaning the complexity of the fraudulent attacks has increased a lot over the last 2-3 years. Increased a lot. The first angle is because somehow we are deploying more complex solutions, so we are more exposed than we were before. On one hand. On the other hand, we also see that, meaning the fast development of IT and so on allows or is allowing that we are more attacked and cyber attacks and fraudulent attacks are happening all over Europe, everywhere. And we have here several examples from all points of Europe, from Western Europe to the Central Europe and so on. So I strongly believe that, meaning one of the trends that starts also to develop very fast with COVID is the need to deploy each time more complex and each time more sophisticated anti-fraud solutions, because meaning all these solutions, they only exist if the end user believes that as a secure solution. Yeah? So, meaning safety is not negotiable in a successful payment solution. What about ATMs? Because, meaning somehow we could ask, but we are heading for a cashless society. We accelerate a lot the cashless, all these innovations and all these cashless payment means. So, ATMs perhaps are a thing of the past, but in my opinion, we are not yet there. So ATMs, they in fact in the last few years they decreased a little bit in terms of volumes and in terms of numbers of volumes of transactions and numbers of terminals, but they are adapting. We already heard some other speakers talking about it. ATMs till now were seen more as a pure cash dispenser, just doing that, but right now they are starting to adopt to these new trends, namely contactless, namely recycling ATMs, deposits, much more functionalities, and so on. So what I believe is that the ATMs were also challenged through this COVID period, and they react, and the ATM business is changing, so is somehow developing a brand new concept of what the ATMs exist for, complementing also another trend that is happening, which is exactly the decrease in the number of branches. So cash will we still have cash in the next few years. The ATMs will still be its core, let's say, function. It will still be to serve as a cash dispenser, but there are a brand new world of new functionalities that are being deployed through ATMs. Another case study, another trend that we have seen in the last 2-3 years on the ATM side is that on these channels that are more traditional channels, it's normal that somehow at some point there are some pressure on costs. So we have started to see in several markets in Europe some pooling initiatives popping up. Basically, a group of banks or a group of payment institutions that deploy ATMs got together and built integrated networks that serve multiple clients. And this is an example of a network that SIBS built in Portugal, which is a pooling initiative that is serving 20 banks. It's easy to understand, the brand is Multibanco, with 12,000 ATMs, completely integrated, completely interoperable. Right now, with more than 60 services available on an interoperable, fully interoperable perspective. So all clients of all banks can access all these services. So that's one way to reinvent the ATM business is also to think about pooling or collaboration. Yeah. So what about the future? Till now I was basically talking about trends that we see it happen and already have volumes, relevant volumes. What about the future? In the future, I believe that we need to keep pushing and keep the rhythm that we have now during these 2-3 years of COVID to get from cash to cashless, to get to fully digital solutions. So I believe that, meaning the materialization will happen, meaning in some years we won't have plastic cards, we'll have just, meaning a wallet with a card or a token that point out to our account inside. And the terminals are going to dematerialize as well, or part of the terminals are going to dematerialize as well. We saw in 2027, 35 million soft POS, so meaning this is a trend that is going to happen in next few years. I also believe that e-commerce growth is here to stay, meaning that is a structural shock. COVID made e-commerce growth being exponential, but we are still seeing this year e-commerce growing. This means that we got from a given volume, we double the scale. After COVID, when the restrictions and the physical shops start to open, it might be logical that somehow the e-commerce will decrease. But what we are seeing is that e-commerce is still growing and growing fast, on a fast way, 2 digits. So it was clearly a structural shock, what we have seen, and it's clear something that is here to stay for the future. I believe also that's the third trend in this slide, that cashless payments will keep increasing and will keep increasing at a faster pace than previously to the COVID or to the pandemic's years. Eventually, as I told you in the beginning, I also believe that we'll get there. They will become the only means of payments and cash will be dematerialized as well. Nobody talked till now about cryptocurrencies, but I also believe that, meaning the last 2-3 years, we start to see the first cryptocurrencies successful initiatives, and we start to see the first relevant volumes around the cryptocurrencies. Moreover, we start to see also central banks looking at digital currencies. There is a digital euro initiative, but several central banks around the world launched structured digital currency initiatives. So I also believe that cryptocurrencies within the next few years will be here with relevant volumes, will grow, and I believe that at a slower pace, the central bank digital currencies will also grow relevantly. As we have seen, I was saying that during the COVID period, I've started to see the first relevant volumes in terms of using analytics, the data, loyalty solutions, CRM, and so on. And that will be a trend that will accelerate a lot in the next few years. We have already seen several speakers with different case studies of use cases to use this type of solutions. And this is something that will accelerate a lot in the next few years, because we are talking about a different, meaning a different society with each time more remote clients, with each time more remote to their final users and clients. Another trend that will happen, or it's happening and will succeed, is super apps and mobile first, backed by open banking, will grow a lot and will be the cornerstone of all this dematerialization that I was talking till now. Finally, during the COVID period, we saw, and I think in one presentation today we saw some numbers about it, an acceleration of non-banking players developing, meaning on the fintech space, namely also in payments. Meaning we saw in the presentation that payments is probably the area that is more dynamics within the last few years. But I believe that we are not yet there. I believe that, meaning this trend will keep. And each time more, we will have more non-banking players joining, finding space, because there's still a lot of market that is being created right now. These fintechs are bringing, are challenging the traditional, let's say, financial players, and they are also creating markets. So I also believe that there will be space for all. Perhaps in a collaboration, some in a collaboration, let's say, initiative, and some others challenging directly and occupying this new space. I also believe that instant and real-time will be the future. In a lot of European markets, instant payments are live and with volumes. Obviously, still not the same volumes that the traditional channels had before, but they have already volumes. I know that in Moldova this initiative is just happening, but for example in Poland or in Portugal, the majority of, let's say, the banking system and non-banking system is already on the instant payments with relevant volumes, so it will get here as well. And finally, I also believe that, meaning the cybersecurity and anti-fraud solutions or way of handling cybersecurity threats and fraud threats in the next years will be key to be successful, because all of these that I'm talking, each time more digital, each time more complex, each time more broader in terms of solutions, will only happen with safety. Safety is key and non-negotiable in terms of a successful payment solution. What about Moldova? I was looking for some numbers in Moldova, and meaning the first thing is that I found a survey that somehow it says that Moldovans want to cross this bridge, to go to cashless, to have more digital solutions. So the willing exists. But where we are right now, Moldova, meaning I have here some comparisons with Romania, which is the nearest market, and with the average of the European Union. I believe that somehow the trend will be to follow or to reach this average of the European Union. But you can easily see in all the indicators that there's still a long way to get there. On one hand, that's the left side of the equation. On the right side of the equation, we have good news, which means saying that, meaning Moldova is naturally growing on a much faster pace than meaning the most developed, let's say, cashless economies. So this means that somehow Moldova is closing the gap within the last years, and will keep doing this, and even because the markets that start later on can leapfrog and be faster in achieving this average. So I believe that Moldova will basically follow this trend and very fast close this gap, eventually jumping for the newest, let's say, the most sophisticated or the latest solutions. So to finalize, meaning basically in the past, all of us enter shops saying cash only, we don't accept cards. Nowadays, then it starts to pop up plastics plus POSs, then we develop contactless, and nowadays we are starting to see that there are some shops that only accept cards. But I've already seen on the right side some shops that only accept contactless payments. So I also believe that in the future we will enter a shop and they will only accept contactless payments without no cash and even no plastic, no other payment means. It will be a full digital experience. And I believe that obviously Moldova will somehow adjust in this cycle along the next few years. Thank you.